This is so high tech.
Ooh, scary.
About 30 years ago for myself.
That's right.
You said you're all set.
All set.
Okay, good afternoon. It's my pleasure to call to order the Golf Committee meeting of Tuesday, September 5th, 2023. Before we begin the agenda, I need to read a message from Sarah Beal Fletcher, who is the Channel 18 station manager, that this meeting of the Golf Committee is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20. I must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting. Seeing none, we'll move on. This meeting will be replayed via Xfinity Channel 8 or High Definition Channel 1072. It may be accessed via the Government Access Channel, live video on demand archives on the Town of Barnstable website, streaming 85.townofbarnstable.us/cablecast public site /channel equals 1. Okay. With that, we'll take the roll call. Jeff Converse. John Cookson.
Present.
Keith Hochstein, present. Suzanne Connolly.
Present.
Mark Bushway.
Present.
Bill Silva.
Present.
Jason Orby.
Present.
Okay. Jesse, do we have any public comments from the last meeting?
Negative.
Okay. We need to act on the minutes of the August 8th, 2023 meeting. Would any members like to engage in a discussion of those minutes? Any additions or deletions? All right. Can we have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
A second?
Second.
I think we can accept this with a show of hands. All in favor? Unanimous. All right, the Director of Golf report is next, and before we begin, I would just like to let the audience know that at the last meeting, the Golf Committee had some concerns about the pace of renovation at the Hyannis facility, the pro shop, and the restaurant, because it impacts our bottom line. And it was suggested that we invite first Matthew Levesque, who is, of course, the town council chair, but he is also the golf liaison, and he was gracious enough to attend. And Chris Ganella, the Director of Community Services, who's in charge of the Golf Committee. And we also have Susan Chanley here, who is the financial supervisor. So again, our main topic of conversation today will be an effort by everyone to see if we can begin to perhaps expedite the effort to renovate and get the Hyannis building back in order. Jesse, you want to begin your report?
Would it be okay to go out? James couldn't make it. He sent me his report. It's pretty short. Would it be okay to?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'll go out of order. We'll do Director of Golf Maintenance report via me. Not much. So reseeding and loaming of the cart path adjacent areas continue where we didn't get great germination. Early fall is the best time for this. They're also going to be installing some split rail fencing in several locations at Hyannis to protect the seedlings and kind of keep those carts away from those areas. The 12th fairway has been stripped and sodded. It's open for play. It looks great. I was out there yesterday. It looks awesome. Some much-needed aeration of tee boxes at OBF will take place tomorrow. Seasonal staff remains an issue for both courses, which is the main reason why we haven't completed some of the projects we've spoken about, mainly the sodding of tees at Hyannis, the new forward tee on number 5 at Hyannis, some of those fencing installs, etc. Once the grass slows down a little bit, we can get to these. And lastly, the Autobahn project is still ongoing. Started submitting our course plan in various categories for what will be lengthy review process. Wildlife habitat management, water quality, reduced chemical use, all of the things he's spoken about before. That's all he gave me. I don't know if I'll be able to answer anything on his end.
Well, he did, last meeting, I mentioned about the walking path between 8 and 9.
Yep.
And I noticed that had been
I saw
smoothed
you yesterday.
over.
He smoothed it.
Signage,
There's a big rock in the middle. Yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
You would have to really go out of your way to
Right.
get a cart up there.
So I do have a question.
Yeah.
On the 9th tee at Hyannis.
Yep.
After you tee off and you walk straight, not in a cart, that walking path
Yep.
is extremely dangerous.
Okay.
Large rocks, people going to twist an ankle.
All right.
Wouldn't take much.
Sure.
So maybe it's something James can take a look at
Mm-hmm.
and see if it can be handled similarly to what happened.
I'm sure.
The other side, yeah. Because that crushed stone looks good too. I mean,
Gotcha. I can picture what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right, right. Any other comments?
Yeah, I would just like to say that I think he should be commended for sticking with the Audubon program. If we get that designation, it's such a gold star for our golf program. And I know how busy he is, so
Yeah,
it's always, I know it's not an afterthought for him. He
No,
just
it's a lot of
keeps
desk
going
work,
along.
and he's out on the course.
Right, and the fact that we are the only, organically maintained golf program, I don't know, even in the state at this point, is just, it's just a tremendous thing, and so good for him.
I think the Vineyard Club and
Vineyard,
Beth
yep.
Page Green
That's
are the
it.
only other
That's
two in
it.
the country we know of.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
That is amazing. And the people I golfed with today were remarking on how beautiful the fairways are at OBF. And I just said, this is just
I
superb.
played Hyannis yesterday. It was solid.
Good.
Really good.
So, pardon me, I just wanted to say that.
No, I wanted to make a comment about it as well. Notwithstanding what Bill just said about that pathway, and he's absolutely right about it. I played it the other day, and I really was just sort of reminiscing, going back a couple of years, and all the work that has been put in by you and James and Chris White.
Okay.
I want to make sure Chris is mentioned. And just specifically, just to take one or 2 minutes, going back to when the trees were removed on the 6th hole,
Yes.
that green is absolutely beautiful now. The bunker on 11, like you mentioned, the fairway on 12, the cart paths, all of these things, the tee boxes on 17 and 18, all of these things taken together, if we can get this restaurant open, is going to really bode great things for Hyannis. Because quite frankly, right now, it is a prettier golf course than Old Barnstable. And it's in beautiful shape. And the whole staff over there really deserves the credit. And I just felt I had to say that at the meeting tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Want to move on to the
can I have it?
director? Oh, John, I'm sorry.
Several people have asked me on the seventh tee, I'm at Hyannis. There's some sod kind of in the middle, but the rest of the tee is.
That tee has been an issue forever. It doesn't get hardly any sunlight, even with all the tree work we did 2 years ago or 3 years ago. The back half of that tee is water department property. We don't actually, it's not ours. They let us use it. So we have to be a little careful with that. That's why you don't see the tees back there very often. We don't want to beat it up. That's one of the ones that's going to be resodded because they know it's just in such shape,
So
bad
the
shape.
sod where it is now is,
The whole tee will be stripped, just like they did 8 last year. All 3 other par 3s, 7, 11, and 15, will be stripped and sodded. Hopefully October. It's not a money issue. It's a time and staff issue. But that tee is really bad. We commented on it yesterday when we were out there. So you're right, and they're aware of it. It's on the list. I hate to say it like that, but that's what it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
it just looked like a job that was half done. That was kind of a question, because there is a section there that looks sodded.
You know, that probably was. It was probably left over from 12. They had a few rolls left after they did the 12 fairway, so they probably put them out there on 7 just to use them.
Okay.
That would be my guess. James would be able to answer that in a heartbeat, but I'm guessing that was leftover sod from 12, because I know Chris was worried he didn't buy enough, but sure enough, they had a couple extra rolls. That's probably what happened.
Okay. Other comments then? All right, Jesse.
All right.
Director of Golf Report.
All right, carts. We've finally been made whole with the fleet. Yeah, huge relief for the maintenance crew specifically. They now have all the utility carts they need. So now we're basically all set through the 2027 season, so nice to be able to cross that off the list. Cart decals. I want to pass these around. Yeah. Susan, I gave Suzanne a sneak preview, but so these are in the process of being made by one of our vendors. There'll be weatherproof. They'll be easily removable, and they're going to be placed. They'll be about that size. They'll be placed in the lower left-hand corner of each and every windshield. I got 100 for each course. Cost about $1,000, but I think it's nice to put that in people's face and kind of. It's a reminder that's literally physically right there in front of you at all points during a round.
And
So probably well overdue, but we finally.
Jesse,
What if you're not in the cars?
it's really the folks who drive the carts that tend to be the issue sometimes.
That's true.
Yeah.
What if you're not in a cart? I have no great answer
Put
for
one
that.
on
but-
every 3 holes or something, every 5 holes or...
I mean, we have one. There's 1 in 10 already. We could maybe do 6 would be a good spot. And
Think about it anyway.
yeah, sure.
You mean like a larger version of this one?
Yes, exactly.
Well, real signage, yeah.
Yeah, sign.
I'll see what it would cost. I mean,
Yeah.
these were cheap, but
Yeah.
real signage could be talking. Now you're talking thousands, but.
Yeah.
Well, I thank Jesse for listening to us about pace of play, and this is,
Yeah.
I felt this was like the first concrete thing that's been done in a long time regarding pace of play, and so I really appreciate the effort. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Revenue. August revenue came in just barely under budget. Obviously, we had a ton of rain. Considering that, I'm not really surprised or concerned about coming up just short of forecast. Through the first 2 months of the fiscal year, we're about $50,000 ahead of budget. Granted, it's obviously way too early to put any real stock into that number. A couple rainy weekends could wipe that out real fast.
Yeah.
For the record, I know I'm claiming we're up about 50,000, while the report you have says 34. The reason for that is I'm factoring in the interest that we receive on our reserve balance, which always lags like 6 to 8 weeks behind. Once we find out the amounts that we made in July and August, we'll go back and plug those numbers in. I anticipate that bringing that 34 up to around 50. We've been making about $7-8 grand a month. This is an example of how I've talked to you about how Munis is not great for real-time analysis. It's always lagging behind, sometimes in this case, more than 2 months behind. So again, I could not bring you a Munis report today because FY23 has not been closed out yet. So hopefully in October I can show you what a Munis report actually looks like. But here's an example of how you want to be careful how much you rely on it because it is substantially lagging. I'll tease this real quick. 2024 rates and fees. I know this is always the October topic. I'm going to pass one more thing out. I did this last year for you all, I think. This is the budget calendar that came out. It's on the town website, front and center, on the left side. I think I shared it with you last year. It's basically just a list of deadlines. As far as we're concerned, the notable one is the 2024 calendar year rate and fee right now. It seems like every year these deadlines move earlier and earlier. This year's no exception.
Oops, sorry.
Last year was the 31st. This year it's October 16th. Meaning the October 10th meeting will be our one and only opportunity to discuss as a group. So like I have the last few years, I'll spend the next few weeks reaching out to my fellow Cape golf directors to see what everyone else is thinking. And during the October meeting, I'll share those findings with you, and we can have a discussion on rates for 2024. Side note, I always found it fairly amusing that I'm asked to submit my revenue projections in May, and then 5 months later, I'm asked to decide what the prices are going to be. Seems a little backwards to me, but that's the rub of having a fiscal year budget, but calendar year fees.
Yep.
So kind of weird, but here we are. Early sign-up program. I'm sure you're all familiar with their annual early sign-up program. Typically, it's always been starting on October 1st. Someone can purchase their pass for the following season and get access from the time of purchase basically through the end of March for free, essentially. It's important. It's definitely a substantial revenue creator. I think it's important to keep it. Having said that, we can talk about, well, no, we can't talk about this in October. I personally feel we should delay the start of that program until at least after greens aeration. We all know as busy as the course has been, member access has been an issue. I really don't want to compound that during arguably the best month on Cape Cod to play golf by adding 100-plus new members that are coming in with 0 Chelsea points, and now they have a huge advantage in terms of tee time access. They're going to get whatever they want. Right. So OBF is punching greens Tuesday, Wednesday, October 10th and 11th. Hyannis is the following week, the 16th and 17th. So I'm leaning towards delaying the program until Monday, the 23rd. I'm open to hear what everyone thinks.
Why don't you just make it November 1st? No?
I thought of that too. Either one. I don't think a week would
How
matter.
does that change your year-over-year revenue plan for October?
I don't think much, because the people who are going to join with that early sign-up program, they're still going to play. They're going to pay greens fees. So we're getting their money in a different way. I don't think the bottom line will change much. I think it'll just be more money in a little more money in greens fees and a little less in membership. But I don't love the idea of the first 2 weekends in October being taken up by all these new people who just joined and the people who all year have supported us.
November
So you
1st.
typically get about 100 that sign up early?
For the early program, at least. Yeah. It seems like every year there's a turnover of probably over 200 to 300. We lose 300 members and we gain 300 every year. It seems like, oh my God, you lost 200. Every golf course has that attrition. It's just, so November 1st might be it, might be but we never worried about it before because all we wanted was more play,
Right,
but
right.
these last couple of years,
Yeah.
access has been more the issue than filling up the tee sheet. So
November 1st might be an easier date for people to
sure.
remember.
And I've
deal
cautioned the
with.
staff, don't promise anybody anything.
Right,
because
right.
they all start asking, they also,
Yeah.
That's, I wanted to keep it short for obvious reasons. That's really all I have.
When does reciprocity start?
September 15th. September 15th, I think it's just Monday through Thursday until November 1st.
What was the question?
And then at reciprocity with the other munis.
Oh, okay.
September 15th, Monday through Thursday, $30. Cart's optional. And then as of November 1st, it's 7 days a week at all the munis on Cape. $30. Yeah. And we'll promote that. That helps us kind of ease the tee sheets too, because a lot of our members want to take advantage of that and go elsewhere,
Right.
which from an access standpoint is fine by us.
You know I
You
do.
got golf teams coming in trying to practice.
You got it, Stu. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And they're not the fastest. You know.
Well, it's
But
okay.
they're usually late in the day.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
learning, yeah.
Ryan Mulligan is the assistant coach for Sturgis. He said they just had their first match at Crosswinds, and it was a 3-hour 9.
Oh, wow.
And I told them,
3-hour-9?
Yep. They shot, so you're familiar with it, but they take the best 6 of the 8 scores.
Yeah.
They shot 350. 6 players shot 350. That's an average of 58 each for 9 holes.
East or west?
I don't know. I don't know. He didn't even tell me.
Sturgis West.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a triple bogey max, which means 63. You cannot even get out of your car and mark down to 63. And the average is 58.3. Yeah. So, and I told him that's not sustainable. You're not gonna have access to courses if that's your MO.
Right.
You know. So that is what I have.
One comment, the new flag sticks and flags at Old Barnstable.
Oh, the red ones?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
They are great.
You could
Everyone
actually,
today was
right.
red. Thank goodness they're
Yeah.
red.
And the flags themselves have some variants.
Yeah,
some
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
really good looking.
You can see, you can see the flags from
Yeah.
a mile away, and you know which.
The blue was tough. It was, yeah. We'll see how clean they stay. The guys are always worried about that, especially when they spray.
One-time red flags are good.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Hopefully they stay clean. We'll see.
Yeah. No,
they're not
people are
cheap.
thrilled with them.
You know. Yeah.
They're thrilled. You couldn't see the blue ones. Well, there's a lot of elderly people on the course.
What?
Myself included. Okay.
All right, the other item, and I didn't know if you were going to touch on this or
I
not,
didn't
Jesse.
know how you wanted to.
I'll just kick this off. I had asked Susan to give me some data on this, and I want to go a little bit background here for Chris and Matthew, is that we're concerned about the pace of the renovations at Hyannis. And one thing in particular I believe was discussed last month was the fact that the asbestos has been cleared out of the building. There is a contractor who has been assigned to us by town officials to do the HVAC work, and Jesse reported to us that not only hadn't they started the work, we didn't even have a date by which they were going to start the work. So the building is basically empty now. The asbestos has been cleared out, and yet there's been no work done. I had asked Susan, I'll go back to this now, to just give me a little bit of information so it can give you an idea of why we're very concerned about this. In fiscal year 22, in the month of June, there were 2,260 non-member tea times. So that was a year, obviously, before it was closed down. This past June, there was 1,954. So we had a reduction of 106 non-member, non-pass holder tea times just in 1 month. Now, there's the greens fees, of course, but also the non-members or the non-pass holders invariably will come, they'll take carts, they'll buy gear, and so it's really a financial benefit for us. And in fact, we've had this discussion several times as to how many non-pass holders should be playing every single day, because some other public courses, quite frankly, allow more than we do. So this is an important topic. And if you talk to Jesse, he can tell you that entire groups have backed out because they know there's no restaurant. And again, I don't have to tell, I'm sure, anyone here that the quote-unquote 19th hole is really an essential part of the whole golfing experience. Just to go there and chat, laugh, have some fun with your partners, see the other people that are there in the clubhouse, have an extra iced tea, and really enjoy yourself. So this experience, because the word has gotten out that we don't have a restaurant, is impacting our bottom line. And our concern also is the fact that people who are now going to other courses, because there are some public courses that are almost as good as Barnstable's, almost. But once they go there, they get into a habit of going there, and then we don't get them back. And all of this is important to us because we have made, as I just briefly alluded to, some of the improvements that we've made at both courses, but especially Hyannis, and how we're going to be asking the town to give us permission to renovate all of the bunkers on Hyannis in a year and a half. In order for us to ask that, we have to make sure that our reserve fund contains the finances that would support that kind of effort. The council, and Chris, I'm sure, was a part of this, allowed us to put in all new cart paths. And that really has dramatically changed Hyannis. Well, again, we're trying to look at some major improvements because our goal is and always has been to make Hyannis and Barnstable Golf the #1 public golf program on Cape Cod. So, again, we're concerned about the money because of the reasons I alluded to. Members, by the way, or again, pass holders, have asked me about this, whether or not we're losing money because of the situation at Hyannis. And so, again, I asked Susan, and I can tell them we definitely are. And when you add this to the fact we don't know what's going on at the restaurant and the pro shop, we get a little frustrated. So that's why we invited you here today to make this an informative meeting where we let you know about all of this stuff and perhaps ask you to help out in this regard to begin to expedite the renovation process. So with that, I don't know if any other members want to discuss
usual.
this topic?
I think I'm with you on everything you said. I'm always reminded that in a destination economy like ours, golf is an economic driver. It's really important. You know, people go to the other restaurants, they go to hotels, motels, and so forth. They spend their money in shops. They visit the waterfront and so forth. They visit all over Barnstable. So I'll just say that it's really important. I think there's my other worry, and I'll be very brief, is the pressure this is putting on OBF. I think that there's quite a lot of, there will be, especially this winter, a shifting over to OBF because Hyannis isn't up to, speed. And the members I talk with, I belong to the Barnstable Ladies Golf Association. When I told them we were having a meeting to discuss this, they ask me about this all the time. And I said, we were talking about it this afternoon at a golf committee meeting. Oh, let us know. I know people are really concerned. They don't know what is happening and how long this will take, and they want Hyannis back, in other words, so that's all I'll say.
Well, just to clarify
Yeah.
one other point that Suzanne is talking about, years ago, Old Barnstable was closed over the winter. Obviously, we can't close it this winter, so Hyannis will be closed, and so Old Barnstable is getting so much more foot traffic that we are concerned about it.
One question that I have, does the town have business interruption insurance?
There is, on the policy that they have, there isn't, I don't believe there's a lost revenue. It's the building envelope. So there's no lost revenue on the insurance that we currently hold for that building.
So that's a no. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So, two questions. One, is the building owned by Buildings and Grounds for the town? And where is it in the prioritization of renovations within that program?
All right. We've got a bunch of questions. I don't want to get too far ahead. I don't want to undercut you. I can speak to most of these questions unless you...
By all means.
Okay.
Director, sir.
Yeah. Well, first,
Congratulations, by the way.
thank you. First and foremost, I think Jesse and I've been to a couple of meetings now. You've been
Yes,
you're
absolutely.
great advocates for everything that you're saying. Lost revenue, the importance of having a concession and a viable concession there for the whole atmosphere. I mean, I know Matt is a family's golf. I was a golfer when I was young, and I understand this whole process. I also understand as the assistant, now the interim, and now the director, the complications that have happened. To answer your question, kind of going out of order, the town of Barnstable owns Hyannis Golf Course. It's an asset. Where is it on our priority list? It's its own entity because it's an enterprise account. So we're not waiting in line behind another project. We're not waiting in line for anything. And I think...
But you are, because you have no access to the town architect, because he works for DPW.
I have access to the town architect, and we're actually very fortunate to have a town architect to work with us, because we would be nowhere
You had
without...
to go out to bid for an architect, which you went out to bid for the HVAC consultant, who's
Correct.
been awarded, but has no pressure to finish, because the town architect needs the findings from the HVAC guy to be able to approve the HVAC plan before you can put any of this out to bid, and the bid cycle is going to be 6 months. So right now, you're looking at a 2026 completion date based upon town procurement law.
Oh, wow.
I think some of that information is accurate, but I will say that the town and the DPW have architects, and they've already secured architects and project management for the event of these situations and not being handicapped by having one person ultimately be responsible.
Right.
Those people have already gone through that procurement process. Mark has chosen the best, in his opinion, firm to handle this.
HVAC or architectural design?
The whole thing, all together. Because when I went in front of town council and I said, we're going to put this back together, I want to put it back together right. You don't have one ductwork in that whole building that has insulation on it. We're looking at it now, we can see it, so let's insulate it. So we're trying to envelope this whole project together into one thing and do it right. So where we are today, September 5th, today is the deadline, I believe the 2-week deadline that we've given Chubb International to approve of our chosen architect/management firm. Once that happens, that is going to move this process forward a lot further. I know from the chosen outfit, they were still trying to say, hey, we can get something done by June of next year. I don't go with those numbers. I go with the facts of what it is that we have. But to say that the architect is slowing this process up is not accurate. Right now, I'm waiting for Chubb International to approve what we have. Now, with that being said, 30% of value triggers ADA compliancy. We have to redo the bathrooms.
Oh, yeah.
We have to provide access from the first floor to the second floor. We have to. 33%, now we've now gone into another level of fire suppression. Okay, and just real simply, not knowing a lot about the building or the space, okay, we're going to put in a sprinkler system. Okay, well, do you have a 6-inch main line? Where's your closest hydrant? My closest hydrant's on 132. It's a 4-inch main line. Okay, that means we have to run a new main line from that hydrant all the way up that parking lot, additional costs. You have an international insurance company and our adjusters out of Maryland who's trying to verify Barnstable and Massachusetts building code to verify that what we have put forth with their proposal is accurate. And I should have that answer, I'm hopeful, this week.
Right.
Now, I think the town is mutually frustrated, both DPW and the town architect, because we are very fortunate to have them. And if we didn't, where would we be right now?
Right.
We'd be, like you said, going through another process. We have brought this to the point we are today, and we're going to push Chubb. We've had meetings with, we've had outside insurance audits that have come in and said, how's this process going? We've voiced our concerns. The ball's in their court, and I'm hopeful that they'll approve it because I see no other reason why they wouldn't. And at that point, if they don't, then it's going to be another conversation to be had because we've supplied this information via our architect. We've supplied all these drawings. We've spent $21,000 going through the HVAC work. So we're there. We're saying, hey, if you don't want what we've done, and we haven't billed the insurance company at all for any of that work that Mark and his team has done. And if you don't want to approve this, then you know what? Hire your own. I mean, the same thing goes back, and I think the last meeting that I was at with you were there was the abatement piece.
Right.
And they were like, oh, go ahead. And I'm like, no, we can't go ahead. We have old tests that prove that there was asbestos in here.
And they wanted you to multi-test.
That's correct. So we ended up providing those old tests. We ended up forcing their hand.
Right.
This is the give and take, or the force that's going to come from the town to ultimately get this building done.
Right. So you're going to end up going to arbitration.
I don't know that.
This is a $500,000 plus legal insurance claim with the insurer.
This will be from what I'm told, this will be the largest insurance claim the town of Barnstable has ever had.
Right, and from what we've heard with the renovations beyond, because now we want to move the bathrooms, re-architect the space, bring it to code, add other things, it's probably $1.5 million to $2 million project, not including the extra work you just talked about, which is the exterior excavation, replumbing. You're going to have to rewire, because you're basically bringing that building to current code. And this is my own opinion, we would have been better off if when the water happened, it was an electrical building fire,
Bulldozer.
and burned the whole thing to the ground. Starting from scratch would have been way easier than trying to remodel the way it's going. But my question, and the reason why I said it's not until 2026, is you're going to have to go to open bid for the construction piece of this. And who's going to run that? Because I think we all learned letting DPW run the cart path bid was a mistake. Cost-wise to the golf committee, because we awarded low bid, and they bid it like they were building a sidewalk, not a golf course. So they didn't do berms, they didn't do flares, they didn't do a whole bunch of stuff, never mind the fact that they ruined half the course while they were doing it. They minimally complied the DPW bid, and by procurement law, we gave it to them because lowest qualified bidder was right. Change orders killed us. It was actually more than the other guys would have been if we just gave it to them. So I have serious concerns about who's running the program, how it's going out to bid. Is it a single GC, or is it being subbed out by DPW? Meaning, are they going to do an HVAC, an electrical, and a primary contractor, or one master contract? All of this is going to impact how long it takes to rebuild this building. And are you using on-Cape, off-Cape, or out-of-state labor? Because all of that will definitely impact you.
The way that the bandwidth of the town works and the reason that we went with the contractor that was chosen was so they produce those documents, those 90% documents. It's not waiting on the DPW. It's a private entity that we're paying, and we have a calendar, we have a set date.
You're talking about for the...
I'm talking about the whole project.
Talking about for the architect.
Architect drawings, engineering, project management, securing the RFQ proposal, they do that whole piece. So we're not waiting on DPW.
Right.
Because they're already, as you mentioned, CWMP and other projects,
Well,
they're
they're
already
done with-
taxed.
yeah, they're done
They're already
with-
taxed. That's
yeah.
why we wanted to have them be a part of this. Now, DPW will have some oversight as far as project management will be concerned, because the contract now that we're hoping to get approved covers, the concerns that you brought forth. What are we waiting for? I mean, they're ready to go. They understand, the priority. And this is, you're paying a private entity to do it. It's like, hey, I want you to do my roof. It's leaking. They're not going to wait a year to make your roof leak. That was why Mark and his team chose this outfit, was to have that capability and the bandwidth to do the documents, to help us through the RFP process, and to project manage.
So Chris, Jason's saying 2026, which is shocking to me. What's your take when this would be done?
I mean, I like to be optimistic. I don't like to get, dates written down. I think conservatively, we're looking at probably the end of next summer, if I had to guess. And that's probably, saying everything works out. But, I mean, again, if you look at some of the, some of these, like you had mentioned, you have to wait for a timeline, and you have to wait for certain products. I mean, the timelines for some of these HVAC units are a long time. Now that
You could order because I'm going to assume you're going to put it in. You could order a UPS or a generator for that building, 18 months.
it's a time frame, but again, operational, open, and complete are different things. So we've already talked with that firm to say, hey, we're going to insulate the ductwork on the inside. Can we make these other units work if there's a delay? So we've already thought about that process. Again, having the DPW involved has been an asset, so they know those things. Having them do the HVAC, plumbing, and electrical study was huge. We already know some of those things that could potentially blow up in our face, so to speak, or delay the project further.
Built a full Gantt chart of the project, soup to nuts. There are things you can't start until other things are done. So if you're putting in a 6-inch to 8-inch main line, that is the first thing that has to be done. And if we don't start this conversation till November, they can't dig till the ground thaws, which is like March or April. So you have a 6-month delay before you can even start the clock. There is a lot that needs to happen, and it doesn't seem like there's enough pressure to get it done. That's what I'm saying. If you're waiting on Chubb, it's going to arbitration, because why would they write you a check for $600, $800, $1 million if they can wait 8 months to write you a check for $600, $800, $1 million? There's a reason why insurance companies make money.
Understood.
How does the town add pressure?
I think through procurement and through asset management, through David Anthony, at some point. But again, we've given them that grace period now, and now it's over. It's like, what are we doing? We've provided all the information. We have the abatement work done. What are we doing? Let's go. And that's where we're at right now.
There's a big difference between the end of summer 24 and 2026. That's a big difference.
Yeah, and my point was, if you need to wait for water, you can't start until March.
Right.
Are we going to want to dig up the entire parking lot at the beginning of golf season? And we also don't own all the right-of-way. So what's going on with the right-of-way? How does that impact the construction schedule?
You're talking about the electric company?
Correct.
Yeah.
We are not the only entity that plays in that space, and the right-of-way has governance. They have first action. So if they're doing something, you have to pause all of your construction. So you have to fit this in a very complicated timeline, and you have to do certain projects in a certain order with a spend that's limited. If you had let's say a commercial budget, it would be a little bit easier. But you guys are going to work on fiscal dollars. So you have whatever comes with insurance, whenever you allocate. So you don't have the option to just buy your way into the next phase.
Understood.
I don't think I'm saying anything that isn't known, but because we're on public access, the rest of the golf community needs to know why I'm so pessimistic in the construction cycle. If you look at what they're doing with the town water system, the sewer, that is not on schedule, and it's because of just Cape weather. If you guys get into the same issues, it's gonna have the same drag. So you're looking at golf season 26, because at Chris's ideal path, your golf season 25.
Correct.
Well, this is a reality check.
I wouldn't be so pessimistic if it didn't take the insurance company 6 months to approve the abatement, which all they had to do was say, yeah, take the stuff out of the building and you're fine. But it was February to July before they even said, yeah, you should probably take the rotting materials out of the building.
Yeah, I
And
don't.
You guys didn't even wait for the approval. You finally said, we're just gonna take it out. You went in the first weekend, got rid of the really bad stuff, and then
Yeah.
later on, you're like, we can't leave anything, let's just gut it.
And like I said, the only thing I can say today is that the pressure is on right now. They had their 2-week window, which ends today.
Yep.
The 22nd, I believe, of August was the last where everybody was in line and everybody was informed, town, insurance companies, and everybody else. I wouldn't be so pessimistic. Maybe I'm a little too optimistic. But I think that golf season 2025 is pretty accurate. You know, maybe you're right as far as some of the equipment is concerned, as far as 2026 not having a unit, but being operational and be able to have something that is a restaurant, that is viable, that people are going to be eating at, I think is 2025 is a very achievable goal. And I could be dead wrong, but that's where I'm going with it. You know, people were saying, oh, we're going to be ready for next spring. And I'm like, you know, I saw construction schedules from there trying to, and I'm going, there's just no way. I've worked with the town for almost a decade, and I know. But I can tell you that I've been on the phone, I've been sending emails, and I'm trying to push this along. And I think at some point, it'd be hard pressed for me to sit here to say that they're not going to approve because of all the progress we are up to this point. Mm-hmm. To have to then say, all right, we're going to, at that point, then it's going to be a different conversation, maybe at your next meeting in October, and saying, hey, they didn't approve it, and we're going to have a lawsuit on our hands. But now, that's not beneficial to us or to them, because then you're talking 2026, 2020.
And beyond.
Yes. So we're trying to play nice in the
Comes down to a settlement.
sand trap, but
It comes down to a settlement.
Bring in the bulldozers.
What's the town willing to settle for on the claim is what it's gonna come down to, is how long you're involved. The growing nature of the impact, like now we gotta upgrade this, now we gotta upgrade that, that's what spirals the insurance company into, yeah, we're gonna take our time here.
well, I think that even
Like I said, if it burned down, they just would've given you the claim and paid it off.
even with that being said, I don't think that anybody right now has an accurate, all of the information accurate enough to say what should that be. It's easy for you and I to sit here today and say, hey, if they give you $1.5 million, Chris, take it and run. Okay. Well, if I need to run
$1 million.
Correct. So we're trying to do our due diligence to protect the town and also to facilitate this project and get it moving along.
Well, running that main is probably $500,000 if you have to redo the parking lot at the same time.
If we have to,
Yeah.
if, and that's why we hired the firm, or
It's a
want
Pandora's box.
to hire the firm that Mark Marinaccio had suggested.
And I hope you don't take this as me challenging you.
No, not at all.
This is me knowing from being a government-related contractor for 20-plus years, how the contractors approach what you are doing, and understanding what you're asking for.
Oh, I appreciate it, and I don't take things like that, you know.
We only did low voltage, so we were a small piece of all this, but, you know, we knew all the trades. So everyone does it the same way. That's why I'm glad to hear you have one outfit fitting the whole thing. Because if the town tried to piecemeal the trades, this would be a very, very long process.
Yeah, and that way, when we do the process as far as the proposal is concerned, is going to be what it is, as you mentioned, procurement laws. But in that request for proposal, we have those guidelines,
Yeah.
and we have those set forth, and they're strict.
Yeah.
And then we have penalties. So at least then, if they're not achieving them, then we're getting some
I mentioned
alternate
this
source
to,
of revenue that we could potentially.
I mentioned this to Jesse and the town leadership from the golf committee earlier. And the one thing that we didn't do from outside advice for the cart path was to change the way you bid this. Don't do lowest qualified bidder, do best value. That will get the town in a position to actually negotiate the outcome and not take the lowest bid. It is state law approved. It is one of the options, but it's not one that was used in the past. it's something you might want to look at now.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for your opinion and your guidance. I'm trying. I'm going to bring you to the litigation with me.
It might cost you an extra $100,000, but it might save you a ton in the end.
Yeah.
Wow. So how do we get updates on this? We just, every month, we just get a monthly update?
Drag Krista to do it.
I think going forward, I think I've set forth the dates of having to know something this week. I think that we should be in communication, and Jesse, I'm going to, trickle down to you, but I think it needs to be, at least you guys need to be kept in loop, because you're the ones facing the front line. I just don't want to put out misinformation or 2027. I don't want to get that out there either.
Yeah.
But I think, like I said, from this week, from the end of this week, I'll have more information, and I'll make sure that Jesse shares it with you guys. And the same goes with you all. If there's something that you want to communicate or you think of with your experience or somebody else does, by all means, we work for you. We work for the town of Barnstable. We work for its residents, its members, and we're trying.
May I ask one thing?
Absolutely.
The Architectural Access Board is going to insist on a lift from the upper level to the lower level. That's very expensive. Is that an external lift, or would it be in the building, do you think?
Probably be in the building, internal.
In the building? Okay.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah,
expensive.
those were three big things that we found out with the code compliancy triggers was the ADA access, not only for the bathrooms, but for a lift. And then you start getting into arguments like you had mentioned. Are you talking a hydraulic lift or an electric lift? Because an electric lift's a lot less money than a hydraulic lift. What's your hydraulic capacity? Do you have a tank? Is it another hazardous material?
Hydraulic would be a whole nother construction project.
Well, that's where we're going
That's
with
at the
it.
mercy of what insurance is willing to pay for, right, as far as getting that to code. And
No, not
Town's
necessarily.
going to eat most of that, the lift access.
if it's part of getting the building to code, isn't that covered?
Oh, because the insurance says, hey, let's say electric's cheaper, but hydraulic's more expensive. They'll cover the electric. You have to
Correct.
make up the
Right.
Correct.
As you
Correct.
said, right.
But that's what I'm saying. A lot of these things were kind of new to all of us, and not knowing. Like, oh, you need to put in a sprinkler system. I mean, I was out of the Barnstable Adult Community Center. We spent $500,000 putting in a sprinkler system there, and I'm going, another $500,000? No, it's a closed system, Chris. It's a smaller loop. We just need it on these
Oh,
areas.
yeah.
I'm like, okay, I can breathe. I can breathe again.
It'll be 400
know?
instead of 5.
I worked on state building projects, mostly dormitories at one of the state universities, and I'm having flashbacks right now. Thank you, Jason. And
You're renovating a pre-existing code building. It's the same thing.
it is, and I never thought, all this time, I have not thought that this building would require that kind of upgrading. I just thought it was reconstructing a little bit of, but it's really a massive project, is what I'm learning.
It's a massive project, and I think that everybody here understands on some level that there was a lot of other things that when golf wasn't so fortunate to have all this revenue,
Yeah.
that were kind of not taken care of. Not just the golf course, but other things in the facilities. And that's not a bad take on anybody. It's just a matter of where golf was.
Until
I mean,
2
we're
years
looking,
ago,
we're
we
talking.
had $600,000 in our surplus.
Yeah. Electric panel. Yeah, it's still functioning. Would you replace it if it was in your house? No. But when we add a lift and we add an electric lift and now we have more amps, yeah, we need to.
Yeah.
And like I said, President Levesque, when I talked with you at Town Council, my budget thing, it's like whatever we do, even if it's 2026, it's going to be the best 2026 ever because it's going to be done right and none of us will have to.
I'm not complaining about what you guys are deciding for the outcome.
No.
Right.
And my whole point was, I would love to see it done for the start of the 25 golf season, so end of next year.
Yes.
I just think you have so many hurdles that you are not in control of. We need to set a fair expectation that
I
it may
agree.
come online in June of 25, which is towards 26, but it's definitely not showing up at all for calendar year 24 into 25.
And I think it's important,
Construction alone is going to take a long
yeah, the members ask, will the restaurant be available in the spring? You know, that's what I'm hearing from people I golf with, and I think setting the realistic expectations for the community of golfers here is important, but I still worry a lot about the attraction of Hyannis Golf Course to the outside world is just not going to be there.
I don't think, especially from this conversation, we can go back and share any of these timelines, because none of it's any closer to true.
Right.
I put that opinion out just from knowing how the construction cycle works out. I wish Chris was right, that it's going to be sometime the end of next year. No matter what, that trailer is here through next golf season.
Yeah.
How you handle the food service and that contract with the
Yeah.
current provider is a big question mark for the town. But, Chris, I think you're the one who executes that deal. If I was the restaurant owner, having been in that business before, I wouldn't want to be around for that. I don't think, they can't be making any real money. So how does the town support that? And to your point about we are connected to other entities in the thing, collectively, we'd be better off to buy the restaurant owner out and then do relationships with other town people to keep that connection. So when this golf course is back to 100% prime, we've continued those connections with the hotels, with the other restaurants, so they want to feed people back into the program.
Well, that's what I'm wondering about, making a
partnerships. It's the way it's
partnership
gotta
with
work.
a local restaurant.
You can't while he's still on prem and he has the contract.
No, understood, but, well, never mind, we won't talk contracts, but I thought I understood that there was a point where you could mutually agree to separate.
Jesse, is he up next year?
He's up.
Yeah. Yeah. those are
Yeah.
done.
So a partnership with a local restaurant that wanted to be your partner, and, golfers, this is where you go until we're rebuilt. It would go to bid, sure, but I bet you there's some restaurants in the area that wouldn't mind being your partner.
I
2 years ago when it was out to bid.
The safer thing without going to bid is
I don't
just
mean
do
on
a
site. I mean
reference
at their
board
site.
where they can all come in and advertise, because then it's equal, it's fair access. Like
Agreed.
Gannon's is up the street, Bobby Burns is up the
There you
street.
go.
These guys are up the street.
Yeah.
So you're doing referral stuff, and they're offering coupons or something that goes back from the board to
Yeah.
anybody who comes in.
Just for clarification, I think you're understanding something different. Partnership meaning while we're down and out or while we don't have these services,
Right.
please visit these services, and there's a partnership where we are given a
A
take.
partnership on their site,
Correct,
not ours.
correct.
We'd be allowed to promote private business.
We can.
Right.
We can have a board, like he
Equally.
said.
It's just a big punch board. Anybody who wants to come in can put it up. It's fair access. So somebody from Yarmouth could cut some hanging. You don't care.
Right.
But to get away from the current situation, you want, when you come back to open, that you come full out and everything's good. You're not carrying old challenges.
Yes. And also, trying to improve what counts the most, which is more than a concession, in my opinion, which is a golf course.
I think
Oh,
it's
yeah.
the golf
And
course.
trying to get that CIP done. I mean, we went through last year and we did James isn't here, so I can talk. We had the golf equipment building at OBF, and we reserved the capacity to use those funds and pulled it from a capital improvement project request, knowing that we would have to help fund this. And why would we do this when we know this is coming?
Right.
As long as golf stays healthy, financially viable, like I see it to be, we have a plan to submit a CIP for the bunkers at Hyannis and then a bunkers at OBF. And short term, I mean, we've already met with, Jesse and staff has already met with an architect for that project, who is, again, not just management or not just plans, but they want to follow through and manage it because they don't want it to have to go to the lowest bid. And if it does, they're going to manage that person to hold them accountable. So we have learned our lesson as a town.
That they can only hold them accountable to the detail of what was in the written spec, and then it becomes interpretation.
Correct.
And that's what happened with the other guys.
Agreed.
If you don't know what word to put in there, everyone fights over the word.
Well, this was enlightening.
Chris, speaking on behalf of the pass holders of Barnstable Golf, I'm really going to have to ask you to increase the amount of communication that we have. Because when I hear 2026 and then 2027, we're going to have people saying, what the heck is going on here? Why is this taking 3 or 4 years? And it would be a legitimate question. This has been somewhat overwhelming, this conversation. I want to thank Jason for the questions, and I appreciate your position. But whether or not you're at our meetings in October and November, or whenever we think would be appropriate, to hear, like, what is going to happen with this deadline that is supposed to be taking place today? What is going to happen with that? and to hear more communication, because people are going to want to know, and they have a right to know. So, again, I don't know whether you can attend all of our meetings or attend a meeting every other month to give us specific updates. Because, again, we've had a lot of vague quasi-deadlines here, or not even deadlines. It's just a vague cloud right now. And again, that water line from 132 in is just downright scary, quite frankly. So I'm going to ask you on behalf of the committee and the pass holders to perhaps make yourself available at future meetings so that we could find out simply what is going on. Simply what is going on and what is the pace of progress.
I absolutely accept.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, I think if there's anything else pertinent at this point,
Yeah.
rather than waiting,
Great.
I will email Jesse and give him the direction to make sure that information gets out to you
Most
guys.
of
But I
it
think most of
can
it
be filtered
yeah,
through me.
Yeah, I think most of
Yeah.
it can come through Jesse.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this has been vague, not knowing. And
Exactly.
trying to find out what is the code and what do we have to, and then looking at the insurance policy and figuring that out. So, you have a number in your head as far as a day. I have my number, but I don't want to alert anybody, or there's too much right now uncertainty to know
Right.
exactly what it's going to be. So if I have to come here every month or every other month and say,
Okay.
hey, listen, this is where I'm at, this is what we're doing, I'm hoping that this month is a transitional month and that we get answers to these questions that I've been emailing and calling about 2 to 3 times a week for the last 6 months. Jesse and I have a daily tracker of the project. I know it's February 3rd. He can tell you the date. I think it's 132
I know
days.
Jesse gives every meeting we've been in ever since the time you came in, he's like, I know this is what Chris has been working on, this is where we're at.
Yeah.
With hours she's there, so no one doesn't think you guys aren't chasing it. And the reason I think we wanted Matt in this room, I think, today, was we're trying to figure out from your leadership above you, what is the town doing beyond, recreation? Say, your services, but they're the big entity in the room. So how does the town carry the big stick to this meeting? Because you're chasing and chasing and chasing, but Chubb's real revenue comes from the rest of the town, not from recreation. So they're really beholden to the town and the greater Commonwealth. So how does the town really start to, that be some weight in here?
Yeah, so it's a good segue. First of all, I just want to say, because I'm getting an opportunity to do this, I just want to say thank you to everybody for your service and applying your expertise and your enthusiasm, not only about the sport, but our courses. And without people who are here, and what I love about the golf committee, and I've interviewed a number of you, and there's on the appointments committee and things of that nature, it was just very encouraging that if you're here because you have a passion for the sport, you have a passion for our courses, passion for the town of Barnstable, and there's really no room to have like an agenda, so to speak, you know what I mean? So you are here to be part of the solution, and I really appreciate that. And I also appreciate your expertise, Jason, that you come and you apply that, and it excites me that you are asking the questions that you're asking, because we have people that have a certain level of expertise that can apply and really assist us, you know what I mean? And be part of a team, Not that, again, our director or staff members or whatever don't know what they're talking about, don't know what they're dealing with. And of course, I appreciate your willingness to just take it head on, you know what I mean? So that all being said, I, was notified the day of that there was a problem. And of course, it's a perfect storm, right? It's the coldest day of the year, and then there's a 60-degree change. Usually, right, a frozen pipe cracks, bursts, and then it slowly defrosts. So it's a trickle, and you say, oh, there's something going on in the ceiling here. That's not what happened. Boom, right, and it floods for a day and a half until people get there on Monday, So, hence we have what we have. So that was, and then again, so my point person typically with, isn't even Mark Ells necessarily, it's Andy Clyburn, who's the assistant town manager. I said, what are we doing? You know what I mean? And here, how are we? And of course, my children, participating, it gives me a little bit more of an insight, right? I'm not saying that I prioritize it over anything else, because I don't.
No.
HYCC, all of our, facilities are, need to be, equal. But again, you are an enterprise fund, so that gives you some leeway to be able to apply pressure to move forward where other things have to wait for a capital improvement project approval and things of that nature. That's a 5-year plan and a lot, Anyway, so this doesn't have to be that, thank God. So, again, the pressure is whatever support you need, whatever way I can assist in my role, please, I'll be available. You know what I mean? And, even relationships you have with people in the community and things of that nature, whatever resource I have, I will, it's at the beck and call of the town, and in this case, the golf, department or services or whatever it is. So it's, again, I think my record shows that I've been very supportive of the golf, in general. Obviously, I think it was a real big win that we got the CPC money, and that was a battle. You know what I mean? In some ways, like to make people really understand what we're trying to do here, and that this land is deed restricted is because we used that land bank money to purchase it way back when. So, again, here we are. And unfortunately, in some ways, it could be a blessing in disguise, because after it's all said and done, and I'm not saying it should have happened or I wished it upon us, but that building was not in good shape when we took it over, and it has been a drain. It's poorly designed, has been poorly designed. That's why those pipes keep freezing. To be honest with you, that's the third time, I think, since I've been a town councilor.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So that's only, it's happened before because it's either poorly insulated or just, again, poor design and poor maintenance. And again, not on necessarily the town, it's what we inherited years ago. So, that being said, now, it may be, again, I just know that I have tried to ask honest questions since I've been a councilor about this building, about what's going on. I was, again, I was friends with Scott Allen. You know what I mean? I knew Scott. I had events for nonprofits that I worked with and stuff at the golf course long before I became a town councilor. And because I thought Scott Allen did such a great job and was such a valuable piece, to provide a service for people in the town of Barnstable that needed a maybe less expensive, place where they could have an event, and he really worked with people to try to make that happen. I also know Don Cox really well, you know what I mean? And again, that had nothing to do with the bid or anything like that. It's just I volunteered my time, and it was honestly something that got my feet out of bed in the morning when I lost my business due to COVID. And I worked with Don very closely, so when he wanted to do this, I actually kind of just walked away a little bit and said, you guys take care of this, whatever. But, he's got a lot of expertise in that. But I also know, here's a little piece, that Don is retiring from the Mass Military Support Foundation as of December 1st. So he was kind of the driving force behind procuring this RFP and this opportunity. So I'm not sure if the passion is going to be there. It's a question mark. So that all being said, I really like your suggestions around let's help try to promote some local businesses and things of that nature within our possibilities legally, and that, and work from there. It's, I give you a lot of credit for what you've been able to accomplish at this point, but again, I think there needs to be, and what you're talking about is communicating what is actually happening in real time. That is so important because that will diffuse misinformation. It'll diffuse because you didn't talk about 2027 because you wanted that. But there's somebody out there. I'm telling you right now, there's somebody out there. That
believe me, I
listens to
like
this
me
meeting.
at less
It's not
players
your
because I'm a
fault.
speed to play guy. He knows. I laugh at 4 hours and 15 minutes. I'm like 3:10 and out.
Yeah, right.
I'm with your son. I'm like,
Yeah,
get out.
boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Let's get it done. And but the what'll happen is somebody will want to make the town look bad. Will want to try to say, and I've seen it. You know what I mean? Because whatever makes the noise, and then it'll show up somewhere that the town is dragging their feet, and they're not going to do what they're supposed to do, and it's going to be 2027. That's not what you said.
No.
You know what I mean? And that's not what. So working together, that's I think that's paramount. And if you have to come before the council and try to give if you have to come before the council and give an update to the council so they know what's going on. Again, to diffuse the path of misinformation. I swear that's what I devote most of my time to about any project that's happening in the town of Barnstable, is working towards getting real information out there. And again, so if that's what I would ask, and if I can help in any way, shape, or form make that happen at the town council level, and again, any support you need, you have my support,
I have to say that I've sat here and had my expectations and my understanding completely reset. And I think that's what you're speaking to, is that the community needs to have their expectations about this reset as well. Because when people are saying, we're going to have our restaurant back this spring, right?
It's better to underpromise and overdeliver.
Well,
in some ways.
It's just I'm realizing sitting here that is so unrealistic, and that people need to understand the scope of what you guys are facing with this rebuild. And it's just important.
Or maybe
Yeah.
just think outside the box, too. Like, is there something that we can do on a more professional, portable, than other than just a glorified food truck? Is there something where we could build a patio and build a temporary bar? Something like that could happen within a short period of time. That
An outdoor.
and
Yeah.
something like
Tiki
that
hut.
with some. What's that?
Tiki hut.
Oh, whatever it
Convert
is.
the shed to a tiki
Is there a way to turn this into a positive? And I'll give you a quick little example. And I just in my place when I got to head off Cape for a hockey game or a baseball game or whatever it might be. On my way home, there's like almost a restaurant complex in Middleborough on Route 28. It's Dave's Diner, a little restaurant he owns also called Harry's. And now he just built this food truck on the side of this bar that the food truck actually pulls into, and it's electronic doors that drop down, and it's all basically outside seatings. They roll it back, and it's all secure, and they have like a little shed with 2 bathrooms in it, and it was amazing. The food was great, but it's called Dave's Barbecue if you're ever in the area. But that's ironic that I go, could we do something like that if it's 2026? Now we get 2 years out of it. You can get a local, probably, and you have that area. And is there something we can do in the parking lot that does that? And people go, hey, what the heck? Here they are. They got lemons, but maybe, wow, they made some lemonade. You know what I mean? So is there something, knowing that, and again, I'm not looking to spend anybody's money per se, and again, if that gets in the way of construction, so again, I am not I get it now, this is what's going to happen. President Levesque said, he demanded that we build a restaurant in the parking lot. It's not what I said.
Just to reinforce that, you're talking about moving off the grid from Sandwich to the golf course.
Something like that. Perfect example. Thanks, Jason. That's a great example.
Well, we also have that wonderful show. Who does that show where she interviews different people in town about something going on?
Is it my Paula Hersey that was doing it?
Yeah, I guess so, right.
Paula doesn't work for the town anymore, but
She doesn't. Okay, well, is
But
anybody
something like
doing
that.
this?
Sarah
I would love to see you interviewed and then put it on the channel, let people know it's on, and Chris is going to explain what's going on with the project at Hyannis Golf Course. I just think, you could be there too. But I think it'd be a great way to start getting the message out that this isn't happening in spring 24.
Chris and Matt are sitting here today because they've all been sick of me not having answers for them. I hope now you realize I wasn't withholding anything. And shame on me, I haven't communicated. We had the email issue with the whole billing situation, but I haven't sent out any updates to the membership in the last couple of months because frankly I've had nothing to say. I didn't know what I would even send. So it's...
Yeah.
You don't want to be alarming either.
Right.
You got to have real answers. But as you get the real answers in real time,
Yeah.
they should be
Well,
provided.
I think a great close to the membership is after Chris gets some resolution from the insurance company to say, hey, we've hit milestone 1.
I'd
We are
love to send
starting-
something
We're
out.
starting
Something
the
positive.
award and the build process. We'll keep you updated with the next stage. Yeah. I didn't say you're doing it next week. I said when you get it.
I mean, would the golf committee like Chris to come to each of our meetings going forward, at least between now and the new year?
I would recommend maybe every other
Every
month or
other.
every third month.
Well, that's why I'm
Because our
asking.
next
Yeah.
meeting is October is the rates meeting.
The rates meeting,
We
right.
wouldn't want to waste Chris's hour.
All right.
Listening to rates
Every
meeting.
other meeting sound good with you?
It's fine.
Right. Just the committee, just the updates via email.
I mean, an update would only take 15 minutes or so, but if we want to make it every other meeting, that's fine, too.
Yeah.
And, Matthew, you mentioned also about appearing before the town council.
Yeah.
Now, going back to this issue of us being an enterprise account and the amount of power
Yeah.
that we have to try to push things forward, helping Chris to push them forward. Maybe if you thought it would be appropriate, we could appear before the town council for a short presentation on what's going on. And this way they would know about it, and again, people would understand that we are moving forward. And if Chris could come up with some sort of punch list.
Right, some really answer type stuff, yeah.
And we have something that we could say, yes, we've achieved this goal and this goal.
Do people know that as an enterprise fund, we are not a drain on the general fund?
That is a tough thing to explain to people.
Yeah.
It's the same reason. Well, you know what the toughest one to explain is the transfer station,
Yeah.
because golfers understand what they have to pay for a membership and kind of what is a good deal and what's not a good deal. They understand
There's
that
a
because
market rate for it.
Right, exactly. So it's clear. A dump sticker at $320 and $330 is that is a challenge to try to $330 to explain to people that that's an enterprise fund that has to pay for itself, and therefore, and even then at $330, believe it or not, we're pulling from reserves every year to subsidize.
Yeah,
that.
they don't know what an enterprise fund is.
Right. Even though we discuss it though,
I
and we
know,
do
I
define
know.
it. But again, it's also, and again, this is an insult to people. People are very busy. It's hard to pay attention to exactly, and honestly the first time someone explains to you an enterprise fund and what a CI capital improvement project and what this budget, operating budget compared to that, the first time you hear it, it's like, oh, okay, and then you forget half of it when you walk out the door. So it's the repetition.
Yeah.
I can say that as a town councilor. It took me a while.
I hear it all the time. My taxpayer, my tax money, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
But the other thing that is confusing for people is our reserve fund.
Yes.
Because this term slush fund is almost synonymous in somebody's mind. But the fact that
Why wasn't lunch served today?
when I talk to people now and I tell them that the reason we got the cart paths in is because we have money in our reserve fund. And the reason we may be getting all of the bunkers renovated is because we can actually cover that. Whether or not we take out a loan for it or not is another topic with Chris and the powers that be. But those kinds of things, again.
Yep, poorly understood.
I appreciate you asking me to be here, and very thankful that you changed the time. Thank you, everybody, for that, so that I
Well,
can make it.
and-
Normally, Tuesday's actually pretty good for me, so
Yeah.
moving forward, I just had an opportunity.
Well, everybody
to work
stepped up to the plate and changed their own schedules because we wanted you to be, and we wanted Chris
tonight. I
here,
didn't want
too.
anyone recognized, yes.
To that point, with Chris moving forward especially, does it have to be 5:30? I mean, I know, could we do, for his sake, you have what, 19 kids or something? Four, all right.
Why is that
Well,
socially unacceptable? Everybody throws up, everybody throws up in their mouth a little bit when you talk
Hockey's at 5. Hockey's at 5.
Well, I'm just curious,
Hockey's
could
at
it be
5.
No, I-
4 o'clock?
Well,
For his own,
If we're going to have him come on a regular basis, then we could
Yeah, we'll change.
adjust the time, because everybody stepped up to the plate again. I just mentioned that. We could do that again, just to make sure that you could come.
There's no prohibition against this committee changing its regular meeting time. It just has to be
I
posted.
normally have a drop-off and pickup at 3 and 5.
Oh,
Don't
okay.
reschedule it around me.
bus, too?
Yeah, it's called Uber Dad. Uber Dad. Actually, it's to make sure my daughter can get back and forth to golf practice, so.
He's trying to sound good here now, golf practice.
It's true.
I know.
She's on a little golf team, yeah.
I know.
When's it coming? Actually, Twin Brooks.
Should we wrap it up?
Okay, other comments?
Oh, we're good.
Can we leave it that the next meeting, would you like to come to, only because I'd like to hear about the results of what's coming up. And we could have a time convenient for you at our next meeting, which is the second Tuesday of October. And we could have the meeting here. And so you could make a presentation, but most of the meeting would be regarding our next year's rates, which we really have to spend most of our time on.
I don't have a problem attending on the 13th, 3 o'clock. want to do the same thing? You want to amend to that?
How do people feel about that?
10th, but yeah,
Sorry.
second Tuesday.
10th, right?
With notice.
Yeah, with notice.
is fine.
I'm fine.
And like I said, I don't know how much of a presentation it'll be. I'll give you the information that I have, and I'll give you
But I
the
think-
facts
I
that I
think
have.
That's what we want. We want facts.
I
Yeah.
think it could be, we're going to have information before the second Tuesday of October.
And that information should get out, so it might be
Right, so if
redundant
it's
to
a
say.
weekly email update, then that's probably.
But I feel I need to send something out
If you
to the
want me to be
membership
here on the
as a whole.
10th, and the committee
what
wants me to
the-
be here after they get the information, then I will.
Well, let's just get this settled. How does the committee feel?
I think the meeting could get derailed to Chris if he's there in October when we need to talk about the rates.
All we need to
Okay.
hear is, did they accept it or
Right.
not? And Jesse can convey that information.
All right.
Really a next steps update, either it's resolved, or this is what we're doing.
But
and
could
then
you come to the
Pick it
November?
up in
meeting?
November.
We're not picking out paint colors next meeting.
Right. But I think every other month, Jesse will do that critical update and then November and talk about the project.
I think I've proven now that when it's pertinent for me to be here, or when asked to be here,
You'll
I'm not.
be here.
I'm going to be here.
That's right.
Amongst the 19/4 children that I have, I will be here.
I don't have any, so
town,
4 seems like a lot. I
I
don't know.
work for the town and I work for you folks.
Thanks,
So if you guys
Chris.
can accommodate, my family comes first, but second
Yeah.
is the town.
Yeah, no one questioned that, Chris.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll have some good information.
Okay. All right. Any other comments now?
Are we ready to adjourn?
We have to make a motion.
We have a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
A second? Second. All in favor? Show of hands? Aye.
Excellent.
Thank you.